we have seen in the lectures till now that we can do some optimizations and reduce on the number of registers, number of operators and number of interconnects, and at that point we did not consider one very important thing, that is known as scheduling or scheduling. So, here you see we have put up here say two operations in the same control step, right. Now, before that let me just quickly explain what is meant by control step. Say at every clock cycle some operations will be done. So, I can assume each of these to be the control steps, all right, and say I can have an addition done here and a subtraction done at the same control step. If I want to have them done at the same control step, then of course, I need a separate adder and a separate subtractor or two ALUs, and maybe that then we come and do some multiplication, all right. So, now I could have done this in a different way, like if I want to save on the number of adder subtractors, I could have done that I do the addition here and then do the subtraction here. I am sorry, the subtraction was not coming from here. So, not this, and the subtraction here I do, and then take the result of this adder and the subtractor and do the multiplication here. So, obviously, if I delay this, then this will also be delayed because of this dependency. Had this dependency been not there, then probably I could have completed the thing earlier, that I do the subtraction here and the multiplication in the same step, right. So, this is allocating the functional operations, the operations to the control steps, that is known as scheduling. So, scheduling is basically a mapping of operations to control steps. Okay. So, in this case, as we can see, two operations, two absolute computations, max and mean computations, both have been done in the same control step. So, based on that we needed so many steps, so many states, right. But today we will now look at how the scheduling can be done, so that different aspects can be looked into. One is the resources, the number of adder subtractors that I will be needing, and also the amount of time that will be required for a particular computation. Now, one thing you must understand, that as was being shown here, that the schedule that I do will also have an implication on the number of functional units that I will be needing. So, on one side, if I had say unlimited number of functional units, then and if the dependencies were not there, then I could have scheduled all of them together. If the dependencies are there and unlimited number of functional units are there, then my only constraint in scheduling are the dependencies. But in reality, both of these are constrained. I have to have some time, there are dependencies, as well as the number of functional units are not infinite, right. So, now let us move to the scheduling proper. So, as I said, scheduling means assigning clock cycles to register transfers. Now, this is important. What I mean by register transfer, if we look at it as a if I look at it as just in the last step of our earlier lecture, when we allocated the variables to the registers, we could see that all the operations could be represented in terms of data transfer across registers. We can have different types of scheduling. One is non-constraint scheduling. There is no constraint. You just do some scheduling. And there we have got two very popular, ASAP and ALAP. ASAP means as soon as possible scheduling, and this one is ALAP is as late as possible scheduling. All right. We will also see some constrained versions of such scheduling, and we will particularly see two types of constrained versions. One is resource constraint, RC, where what we mean is, given the number of resources are known, minimize the metrics, minimize the time and the power, etc. Okay. On the other side, there is a time constraint scheduling, where given the time, we minimize the resources. Okay. We have to satisfy a particular time, and respecting that, we have to try to minimize the number of functional units, the storage connections, etc. In the resource constraint, the number of resources are already told to you. So, based on that, you have to reduce, you have to see how fast you can do that, how we can minimize power, etc. So, for here we will look at a different representation. Here the same problem, same square root approximation algorithm we are looking at, taken from Daniel Geiski's example. Here we are showing a C flowchart, sort of C steps, and here we show a control and data flow graph, CDFG. Now, here in the CDFG, unlike the FSMD, where we had shown all the data operations explicitly, what we do here, we only show the operators or the operations, we only show the operations. Okay. So, absolute finding of A and B, we are starting with A and B are coming as input here, min, max, shifting, addition, subtraction, max computation, then we send 1 to done as the controller output, and the output comes here, right, and that is my CDFG. So, this entire thing can be transformed into a CDFG, where I just look at the data, the variables are not shown here, you see, the variables are not shown here. Here the variables are data that are flowing along these data edges, data flow edges. Okay. The data is flowing along with these operators. Now, given this, here are two schedules. You look at this one, this is our CDFG, this one, and what has been done in this case is the ASAP schedule, as soon as possible. So, what we did, whenever, what do we mean by as soon as possible? Say whenever I have got the data for a particular operation ready, say for example, there is an operation add and there is no further dependency on this, say here the data is available, I schedule it, all right, and there is another operation which is actually dependent on this, maybe multiplication. Now, once this data is available, I can schedule it here, or as since the data is available, I can do it much later, because the output of this is required maybe much later, maybe with some divider, something of that. It is coming through another path with some other graph, it is coming here, all right, through other graph is here, other sub graph is here. So, it is coming here. I in my as soon as possible, as soon as I get the data for this, I will schedule it, although its result is being used much later. Okay. On the other hand, in as late as possible, what I will do, I will try to schedule it, although the data is available, I will schedule it as late as possible, say immediately now, everything is available. So, I have to do this and I was delaying this further. So, I do the multiplication here. This is as late as possible, this is as soon as possible. So, if we look at this, how does it look like? How does it look like if I do this? You see, I have got the A and these are my control steps. All these dotted lines are my control steps. Okay. So, I am doing the absolute computation here, both of them, mean. Now, B is dependent on mean only, mean is dependent on B and A. So, mean can be done, max can also be done. Okay. Shifting of 1 is dependent on mean. So, I am scheduling it as soon as mean is done, I am scheduling this here. But you see the output of this shifting is required by this plus, which is rather delayed. So, the plus is actually cannot be scheduled before this, plus cannot be scheduled before this. Why? Because it is consuming data, plus cannot be scheduled here, I cannot schedule it here because it is requiring the data from here, and this shifting will feed data to this. So, I could very well move this here, that would not have affected my performance, but still since I am doing as early as possible or as soon as possible, I am scheduling it as soon as it is available. Okay. On the other hand, here you see min. So, here let us look at this part. In the as late as possible schedule, what we are doing is, I need the max here, okay, and so the plus will be done just before that, as late as possible. The shifting is required in order to make plus possible. Therefore, I shift this shift by 1 to this position by 1. So, it comes here. Consequently, min, its responsibility is just to feed shifting. So, min can also be shifted down, right, and consequently this is the as late as possible schedule. Now, if you look at this, you can see that in this case, since I have done as soon as possible, if I have got some functional unit that can do min max at the same time, I will need two of them, whereas I can have only one of them here, and that can be reused here, that is possible to be reused, right. I can reuse this. Now, that is the pros and cons of the different scheduling algorithms. Now, this as soon as possible and as late as possible is giving me another information. It is giving me the information about mobility of an operator. What is the mobility of an operator? There is a mobility of min, because min has got the mobility, it can be either here or here. So, min has got mobility 1, whereas max has to be done there. So, max has got mobility 0, whereas I find that shift has got mobility 1. So, therefore, based on this ASAP and ALAP, I can also get an idea of mobility. So, it is serving me two purposes. Either I can do an ASAP scheduling, as early as possible I finish it off and then pay the cost for the resource usage, or I do it as late as possible and see if I can save some resources. Not that in all cases that will be beneficial, but sometimes it may be beneficial. The other advantage that it gives us is it shows us what is the mobility that I have got for the different operators. Now, given this, we can come to now resource constraint scheduling. Suppose now I have got some resources, resource constraints already given to me. Okay. So, for that this algorithm is also known as the least scheduling algorithm. It is also known as in the literature as least scheduling algorithm. What is being done here? First, I am performing the SAP, I am performing the LAP, and then I am finding out the mobilities. So, I do the same thing that was shown in the earlier slide, that I am finding the mobilities of max, mean, everything, and then create a ready list. Ready list means which are the functional elements which are ready now, that means all its data are available. Then from the ready list, we will sort the ready list by mobilities with the least value of mobility coming earlier and the highest value of mobility going later. So, that is how I make the list in the list scheduling algorithm. Okay. So, I make the list scheduling, list will be based on the mobilities. So, I sort the ready list by mobilities, then I schedule the operations from the ready list. Ready list means the the list that I have made. Once I schedule them, I delete them and then add new operators. Once I schedule them, they are scheduled. So, that is the ready list. What I mean is, say for example, here right now, what will be in my ready list initially? Can you tell me? What is ready at this point? A and B are ready, mean and max are not ready as yet. Therefore, A and B will be in the ready list and they will be sorted by mobility. What is the mobility of A and B? Both are 0. Therefore, I can take any one of them. Now, as soon as A is scheduled, I assume that A has been computed. What do I add to ready list? I do not add anything to the ready list because of the dependency. Next, I schedule B, and once B is scheduled, then what comes in the ready list? Mean and max, both come in the ready list. Now, out of this mean and max, which one has got more mobility? Mean has got more mobility, max has got less mobility. Therefore, max appears at the top of the list and mean below. Therefore, I now schedule max. As soon as max is scheduled, what becomes ready? What is there in my ready list? Mean is already there in my ready list with mobility 1, and now shift comes to my ready list. Now, shift has got lesser mobility. Therefore, this shift will be scheduled, and then this shift makes this minus, but then I have got my ready list. So, I will schedule mean also, because as soon as I come here, mean becomes again no further mobility. Therefore, mean will be scheduled. In that way, we go on in the list scheduling algorithm. Okay. That is how the scheduling is done. And here, given my constraints, and every time I see whether all operands are scheduled, all operations and opcodes are scheduled. So, here you see the same thing, ASAP and LAP. The thing that I was explaining to you right now is that A and B were ready, but I scheduled A. Okay. I had now I am doing a resource constraint schedule where I have got a single functional unit, and 2 shifters, and the single functional unit is doing all the things, plus, minus, max, min, absolute computations. Okay. That is my resource constraint. Given that resource constraint, my schedule will vary. If I had two multifunction units, then I could have, my schedule would have differed. So, here it is 1 and B is ready, B is scheduled here. Now, you see that I am showing the mobilities here, mean has got a mobility 1. So, after that max is scheduled here and mean therefore comes here, okay, and 3 is scheduled, and now I have to do min, because otherwise I cannot schedule this shift, and in that way I get the. So, here is the ready list ASAP minus ALAP, and here is the output RC schedule that we get. Okay. This is the resource constraint schedule that we get as a derivative of ASAP and ALAP, and given some resource constraints, this is the list scheduling algorithm which gives us this schedule, and here we find that we need 8 steps, and we are getting the output at the 8th step. All right. Now, the constraint could have come in a different way also. The constraint could have come that I am not giving you any resource constraint, I am giving you time constraint, that come what may, whatever resources you need, take it, but I want the output by within 8 steps, 8 control steps. Okay. For that, the algorithm is, again, let us first look at the algorithm. We perform the ASAP and ALAP and then determine the mobilities. Now, we are taking recourse to another approach, which is we create the probability distribution graphs. Okay. And based on that, we go on scheduling the operators. If all our operations are scheduled, fine. Otherwise, we will go for the maximum gain. Where do we gain maximally? If they are same, then we go for the minimum loss, and we carry out this algorithm. We will show it through an example, the same example, that square root approximation algorithm is coming in very handy with us. So, here you see A and B. Now, I have got my ASAP here. This is my ASAP schedule, right? This is my ALAP schedule. Now, this ALAP schedule is different from the ALAP schedule that was shown earlier, right? This ALAP schedule is different, because you see this ALAP schedule completed the operations at control step 7, but here my time constraint that has been given is control step 8. I am more relaxed at the time. Therefore, if I start my ALAP schedule, I will take advantage of that. I will start with 8 and then schedule max in 7. Here I started as early as possible and I finished within 7, right. Here I start with 8 and go backward. Therefore, I am scheduling the max here, okay, because max is the only predecessor for this. Then plus can come here because that is feeding in this. Everything is shifting down. Ultimately, I can delay in this AB. Now, given these two now, if I look at a sort of probability that where can probably A be scheduled? Sorry, where can probably absolute A be scheduled? The absolute operation on A. Absolute operation of A can be scheduled at either S1 or at S2. So, both of them are possible, right. What about B? B can also be scheduled either here or here. So, each of them are contributing to 50% probability. So, at this step S1, the probability sum is 1, because either this will be scheduled or this will be scheduled. This may be scheduled or this may be scheduled. Okay. What about this? Max can be scheduled either here in step 2 as shown here, or max can be scheduled in step 3, all right, and min can be scheduled in here, here or here. Clear? Follow this. Min can be scheduled according to ASAP here. Min can be scheduled according to ALAP either here or here. So, mean has got this range. So, mean is contributing to about 0.33 probably to all these steps. Therefore, at this step S2 my cumulative probability is 1.8. It is not no longer a probability in that sense, it is 1.83 is a value. Okay. Here max, and that is saying that something, what is the probability that something will be scheduled here. So, you can see that here 0.83, because max can be scheduled either here or here, mean can be scheduled either here or here or here. So, max is contributing to 0.5, mean is contributing to 0.33 to this control step. Similarly, for minus, this should be minus, I am sorry, it has become vertical, minus, plus and max are like this. So, once we have this, then we can see that we have to schedule something. I have to come out up to this step, and I have got my resource constant. Here there is a time constraint, no longer resource constraint, right. So, how can I proceed with this? With this, now I decide that this was my initial probability distribution graph, right. Now, I have not discussed about the shifting here. Shifts, you see the shift could be done either here at S3, S4 or S5. So, its chance of being scheduled is in either of this, shifting by 3 is in either of these two, all right. So, you get the values, this clear? Okay. Now, given this, pardon? This one, this one. So, you see shifting by 1 can be either in S3, S4 or S5. So, that is 0.33, and this one shifting by 3 can come either here or here. So, 0.5. So, over here 0.5 and 0.33 only for the shifter, it is 0.83. Okay. So, now given this, now I have got the max here. Now, max certainly I can schedule here, because I am time constrained, I am meeting my constraint, I can also think of that, okay, if I put max here, then I am also not conflicting with any other resources here, right, because although no resource constraints have been told to me, but for economic design I should also look at the resource minimization. So, I can also combine these parameters. So, max is being scheduled here. Now, so max, as soon as max is scheduled here, certainly max is scheduled here. So, that is 1, max is scheduled, this step is now full. This blue means wherever I have already allocated. So, that means max is full. Now, next I do that, plus can there be here or here? Now, this time is free. So, I put plus here. So, this is also full, minus here, it is also full. Now, as I go to this minus, so these are full, all full. Now, this part has got a probability of 0.33. So, I can put mean here, or I could have put mean here, I could have put max here. So, out of these now I have to schedule. Now, again from here I can see that if I put shift by 3 at this step, because of the dependency, you can see that if I look at the control flow graph, the shift is required for this subtraction. Therefore, I have to schedule shift before this subtraction. As soon as this has been done, this will actually apply a force to this, that okay, you now come. So, therefore, this has to be scheduled at this step. Once this is scheduled at this step, now next I schedule max here, mean is yet to be scheduled, and A and B are still left. And so, next I move. Now, here max was scheduled in S3. So, S4 I can schedule in min. So, that everything becomes, you see, 1. A and B. Now, so this was after max plus minus were scheduled, I got this. So, max is put in S3, min comes in S4, and A and B. Now, what is the situation here? It was 1.33 here. As soon as min is scheduled here, both of these become 1. All right. Now, I can schedule them in any one of these. Okay. So, and this shifting I can schedule anywhere. So, I do this A, B, and this one can now, instead of loading this, I can, since that is, let us look at the control line data flow graph once again. On what does this shift to, I mean, the shift by 1 is affecting whom? Shift by 1 is affecting this plus, which has been scheduled in S6. Therefore, I can schedule it anywhere here. I prefer not to schedule it here, because in that case I will have to share the shifter. So, I shift it here. Here there is a shift operation and a minus, and this plus will need this thing. And now, only A and B are left. So, I can simply schedule them in any particular way like A and B. Okay. So, that is the ultimate distribution graph that I get for the time constraint schedule. Is it clear? So, again summarizing, what did I do? I first had the control data flow graph, and based on that I did the ASAP and ALAP, found out the mobilities, okay, and then after finding out the mobilities I computed the probabilities of allocation, and based on that I tried to balance the probabilities, and ultimately everything should be 1. And of course, here there are two operations. So, ultimately I get this schedule. You see, this is the time constraint schedule that I get. Okay. And now, can you tell me how many functional units I am needing? No, why 1? I will need a shifter. Here these two are overlapping. So, I will need a shifter and one functional unit, one more functional unit. So, you see, I had done the resource constraint scheduling earlier here with single FU and 2 shifters, and there I had, since it was resource constraint, I went up to 8 steps, but for time constraint also I have come up to 8 steps and minimized on the resources. But here there is another advantage. You can see that this shift by 3 and shift by 1, if I agree to pay the cost of a general shifter, then I could have reused the shifter. And thereby, now it is a question of economics, whether I save money or not on this. Okay. So, based on that we conclude our discussion on scheduling. So, we have looked at ASAP scheduling, ALAP scheduling, resource constraint scheduling, and time constraint scheduling. So, that is a brief overview of the high level synthesis of the hardware synthesis part, the approach that is taken. I have not mentioned about many things which are also important. I am just trying to note some of them here. Very important thing is the interface synthesis. In the same way, you can see how the channels and the ports are allocated. Interface synthesis is there. I have not done, see, this is a classic optimization problem where the time and resource conflicts are always there, and if I, and so integrated optimization is a very important issue. Okay. Integrated optimization. For that, people take recourse to integer linear programming, constraint programming, and other approaches. So, based on that, there are a number of optimization works that you can find in the literature, but this is just to provide you an overview of the nuances that are involved in hardware synthesis. Okay.